more of a foundation of just models and like scale models and things like that.
Fuzzy Ghost Models here. Today I'm in Oakville, Ontario, Canada. We're going to have a look at a place called Carefree Hobbies. We're going to talk to the proprietor, have a look around the store, and see what you think. So hey everyone, it's Fuzzy from Fuzzy Ghost Models here, doing one of the store reviews and interviews and stuff. And I'm sitting here with a very fine gentleman who happens to own a very good model store. So
I appreciate that. I totally do.
So you're Tom Carness.
Yes.
And what store is this?
We are sitting in Carefree Hobbies in Oakville, Ontario.
Right, yeah. All right, so tell us a little bit about the store. What's the store offer?
Well, it's, believe it or not, we've turned it into a hobby shop that I think we can be proud of here. For 18 plus years, Nick Bax, who built it from the ground up, and unfortunately Nick passed 2 years ago, but he was ill. And as I was kind of into my retirement, the opportunity came and we chatted, and that was it. You know, I bought it from Nick, and you know, Nick had a wonderful store. But when we bought it, we decided to kind of go back to more of a foundation of just models and like scale models and things like that. Really cool store. You never knew what you were going to find. But we just wanted to kind of go back to the roots of what we felt comfortable with. And that was really just scale models and finishes and accessories and things like that. Mm-hmm. So
I see in the shop you also have some of the remaining memorabilia. And
oh yeah, I guess it's kind of a fine line, because you know, I've been collecting militaria for most of my adult life, and Nick dealt with a lot of military and books and things like that. So you know, I wanted to still have a little bit of a militaria flavor to it, even though there's some really cool stores dedicated to militaria, you know, like Army, like, you know, Military Antiques Toronto. But for us, the militaria is more of a, mostly my collection. But I think it adds to sometimes it adds to the store, you know, when you can see a helmet, you can see whatever. But we kind of drew the line at, you know, Avon decanters and, you know, bobbleheads and things that like Nick had in the store. So, but militaria, we still have a bit of, and we'll always have it in the store. And we're trying to get a little more into books and things like that.
Right.
So, yeah.
So in your opinion, what would make this store different from another hobby store?
Oh, where we're sitting.
Okay.
I think honestly where we're sitting. I guess I'm kind of privileged as you know, I'm retired. So I kind of had the latitude that I kind of thought, what would I like to put into a store? And for us, a classroom meeting area was really big. We don't have a big footprint of a store. So that was a little challenging. But right from the get-go, when I took over, I kind of thought, we all thought, what we really would have liked would be a classroom and an area that guys can, modelers, sorry, we have women too, modelers can just come and chat, have a coffee, and just kind of, if you want to sit and build. So it's kind of morphed into many different things. We do a lot of classes. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Saturday we had a really cool event, which for a hobby shop, it was just kind of like a breath of fresh air. And it was a kid's birthday party, an 11-year-old who we have as a customer. He adores building World War II airplanes, and we've gotten to know him. And his mom asked if he could have his birthday party here. It's what the kid wanted. His name is Ben, and we were over the moon because we had him and 6 of his little friends building here at the table. Simple kit, 72nd scale Tamiya Spitfire or a Thunderbolt. They sat here and they were just absolutely immersed. And what was even cooler was the fact that we had, the guys here are all just super good to be with. And they were coming back and helping, and just to see the smiles and the laughing and the concentration too. It was a special day.
That's awesome.
That was a special day.
Yeah, that's a fantastic thing to have.
Yeah.
What else? What other things do you have back here?
Generally Saturdays we have like an open build day. So we have some signs that you'll see once in a while when you come in and it says, modeling over, Mozart and modeling, because like any, it's a fine line, because I prefer model building as opposed to like this being like a pub, or a bar, because it can drift off really quickly. Yeah. But generally, when people are back here, it comes back to modeling. And, I think we're all kind of inundated and overwhelmed at times now. And I just love the fact that people bring their little toolboxes, they bring their project, they work away. We also have some dedicated groups. We have about 3 groups that come and build here. So that's why I love having the space. There's always coffee. The store is kind of fueled on Timbits. So, most of the groups bring Timbits. You'll always have something to eat here. And that's really it. The rule is just have fun. Try to keep the conversation towards modeling. And to be honest, Steve, it's it's kind of a cool thing.
It's a very cool thing.
Yeah.
The shop is...
It's unique.
Well, when I step into this place, it reminds me of, because I've been modeling since I was 6. So that was 1974, 75 or something like that. And I remember those old school hobby stores where you walked in and there was, and this is not a slight, there's stuff everywhere.
Yeah,
all different things.
No, I take it as a compliment.
So I notice your displays of built models, you've got a lot of really high quality stuff on display. Yeah,
we're kind of lucky like that, because I guess obviously the customer base, and plus us, like some of us here, most of us have been around in the hobby for a long time. So I've got Martin Kovac's stuff out there, Uncle Night Shift. We've developed a really cool relationship with him. But there's work from all different kinds of people. The other thing I kind of want to emphasize too is, I really encourage anybody to bring their work in, because really at the end of the day, when somebody brings in their model, it's kind of like their firstborn, and we all kind of remember those moments. And it doesn't have to be, Martin Kovac's or somebody like that, but it can be just an average model. And we still encourage them to bring them in and put them in a showcase. And so
that's cool.
It's a good vibe.
It's a fantastic vibe. So I would, if anyone's down here planning to come down, it's worth spending the extra 15, 20 minutes looking around at just the built stuff.
Yeah, it totally is. Totally is.
It's like going to a show and getting that inspiration when you walk around the tables.
Yeah.
That's what it's like.
Well, yeah, and I just think when you walk through the door and you see built work, it inspires. And it doesn't have to be, like I said, doesn't have to be gold medal, first place, best of show at Nats, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't have to be any of that. But I think people are inspired just by something that's built. And I think it also gives a store, I know I'm going on a bit of a ledge here, but I think it gives a store too a little bit of credibility when you see built work, because you know that people come in and they're comfortable enough to bring their model in. That's what it's all about. Their model. It's not just about selling a product.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's about what they're doing, right? Mm-hmm.
So 1 point, you have a 1/200 scale HMS hood up there. And about a year and a half ago, I did a little Instagram short or YouTube short on that. And that has been my number one short for the number of people that watch it.
Wow.
I'm talking, like, I think it's over 100,000 people have watched it now.
I've seen that.
And it's a beautiful kit. Beautifully done kit.
Oh,
like
it is
magnificent.
It's museum. It's absolutely stunning. It's museum quality. Quite often, it's funny because quite often I still get caught when I'm just wandering around aimlessly. I just stand there and look at it and stare at it. And quite often I have this little kind of weirdo fantasy. It's kind of like, I wish I could put like a little camera and kind of just zip in and around the model, like, as you were taking a tour of it, because I truly believe it's that good. Yeah. Like that the build is that good. You think you were on the hood.
Yeah, so. It is a masterpiece.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Amongst other stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
no, it's
like there are so many good items to look at, to look at, completed, and it's.
Every time I say I want to bring the hood home, my wife just like, that's like World War III. So
yeah, I understand.
Yeah, it ain't gonna happen. So it's gonna stay here.
Yeah.
Moral of the story: it stays here.
So tell me about some of the people that work here. Like, what's your staff like?
Well, we're blessed. I think anybody who gets into this as a business or a livelihood or a business, a retirement business like myself, we're not putting Amazon out of business. So we run pretty lean. I'm absolutely blessed because most of the people here are retired, so they do it more of a passion than anything else. I'm very fortunate to have, Greg Burden, who really has taken the lion's share of anything we do online and eBay. Super good guy. Ian Fraser, Simon Toyne, Otto, and I also have Sheldon Tkach, who I worked with. He was the owner of North Star for many, many, many years. And Sheldon's here with us too. So we're absolutely blessed because everybody in their own right is a very experienced and exceptionally talented modeler. They all share the passion of the hobby, which I like. And when you walk in, I think that you kind of recognize very quickly that these guys know what they're talking about, and there's nothing that they really can't figure out in the world of scale modeling. So yeah, we're blessed. Yeah,
you do have a good bunch of characters.
Top notch. Yeah, absolutely.
Where do you see modeling going?
Oh,
like there was always rumors like 10 years, the hobby's dying. It's not going to be, no one young's coming in it anymore.
Well, Saturday proved that one wrong because, you had a bunch of 11-year-olds here, and the little boy whose birthday it was, Ben, he was the only modeler. And I think it's a bit of a snapshot, Steve, because, Ben was a gamer. He's incredibly athletic. He's blessed to have parents that are in their livelihood are involved in sports. So the kid kind of is really dialed in. But he was missing something. And then he saw a model that a friend apparently had, and then he wanted to try it. I kind of think that's the what am I trying to search for as wording? I think that's kind of the chronology now that I think we see in a lot of young people. I think that they have no idea what a model is. Like his 5 friends have never seen a model outside of what Ben is doing and building. I don't think it's a fault of us in the business or in the hobby, in the modeling community. I just think it's kind of a societal thing, because we grew up with models. Every corner store, you went to Woolworths, Kresge's, Eaton, Simpson's, variety store. Every store had models. Every store had a tester's rack. So it was just part of our DNA growing up, right? To say it's dying, I've had my moments where I've kind of bought into that, but then doing this now as a business, I don't think it's dying at all. I just think it's going through its own little rebirth in some ways. Now, speaking to young people or their parents when they come in, I think COVID was one thing that kind of showed us that there was a need to go outside of gaming and things like that. So you saw puzzles, you saw all the stuff we know about, puzzle building, making bread, on and on, a lot of arts and crafts. Some of it is carried forward. And I think now that, we see people come in and they're like, you know what, we really want to bring back something that's more skill-based. Not that Lego's not.
It's different.
It's different. Yeah, it's different. But what I see to kind of end it is the next step from a lot of people with things like Lego, because Lego's constructing, right? You still have to kind of read plans and construct. Model building, as we know, there's many different offshoots of what we do when we build a scale model. And I think that's what's kind of appealing to some people. The fact that, they learn different skills, painting and thinking. And I don't know. I don't think it's fair to say that it's dying. But it's definitely, there's on the business end, absolutely, there's a total transformation. But I think we're in okay shape.
Yeah.
Kind of makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. Model building, straight out of the box, even you combine construction techniques, it's not just bricks like Lego. Lego's a good start. Good starter to get that 3-dimensional awareness. But model building, you're clipping, sanding, gluing, painting. So there's
many different,
and there's some artistry involved in that 100%, as well, right? So 100%. It covers a big,
yes,
more creative gamut, I think.
Yes. And I think part of that too, Steve, I think is once you see somebody starting that journey, now I think it's up to us to keep that enthusiasm there with them. So, like with Ben the other day, the birthday party guy, people were running to the front getting show flyers.
Right.
Now that's cool because he's like, oh my God, I didn't. And again, it kind of slipped me to think about that, but somebody went to the front, came back, gave them all, torque can flyers. And I'm like, that's an amazing thing.
Absolutely.
And already like 3 of them were like, Ben and 2 of his friends were like, we want to see that. So I think that's how we just keep that momentum of the hobby going.
Totally. That's great. Got a very ethereal question for you. So, why do we model?
Ooh.
Why do we take this and obsess? Because we obsess over. There's a little bit of OCD in every modeler. Right? Because we obsess over making that into something else.
Absolutely.
So, but why do we do that? Why do we model? In your opinion, there's no right answer.
Yeah. That's actually, I think, a very, very interesting question. I think if we look generationally, that's one answer, because I think, like I said, we grew up in an era that that was a boy's hobby. Now, I don't mean that in a gender kind of way, but every little boy, for the most part, built models. If you're 50 or over, that was just what we did. I think a lot of that comes from a lot of interests that we grew up with, either trains or airplanes or whatever. I think it's like a lot of hobbies. I think that once you start a hobby, I think there's a balance point of, if you are going to pursue that hobby, I think a lot of people will start a hobby and then kind of back away and, I tried it and, and then the other part of that is, I think a lot of people, once they're in a hobby, they stay in a hobby for the most part for life. What I see about scale modeling, I think, is, for me personally, I think it's been a lot of the best relationships I could have ever had. I was blessed to have 2 really cool careers, but what's really quite surprising is my social network of friends are modelers. So I think it's like a lot of things. I think that, a lot of us, as we have had lives, careers, and things like that, I think modeling is one that draws us into mainly a social setting also. And I think that's, for me, it's been incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of things, like you said. I think there's a lot of ingredients to that. There's a sense of accomplishment once you start something, which most of us do, and a lot of us don't finish. But we start stuff, and then the passion of finding the next thing you want to build. There's so many ingredients to that meal. But I think it's, most of us come out with the same goal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We're politics aside, any of that kind of stuff aside, we're all like-minded individuals, I think, right?
Yeah, I think, and that's a very cool thing. And it goes back to kind of the social relationships, because it's so varied. Like on a Saturday, like we talked about, Steve, like on a Saturday back here, there's people from all different walks of life. And even teaching, like I've been very fortunate over the years, for like 25 years plus, teaching different aspects of modeling, like airbrushing and figure painting, things like that. And then when you see the spectrum of people that are either A, starting out, or B, well entrenched in the hobby, it's just, that's a cool thing too, because everybody has that reason they're doing this. They're doing it to maybe just, they have bad days, or they have experiences in their life that they just need something to deflect from that for a while. And I think that's the cool thing about modeling, because when you're in this classroom, it's all about, like I have a really bad saying, and we just build little tanks or little airplanes, or we paint little army men. I know that a lot of people find that kind of like, but that's like the common denominator I use. When we close the door, I just want to paint my little army man, or build my tank, right, or build my airplane. And again, it's an absolute, I just find the hobby's an absolute blessing for that.
Yeah, for sure. So how old were you when you first started?
My dad was typical of the era. I'm going to be 65. My dad built models, and I think I was about 5 when I was kind of helping him, and God bless his soul, he did not build well. He loved it. But I still have, my dad died very young, but I still have a Revell Titanic that my dad did before he died, and he just like hand painted it and used thread for the rigging and all that. But watching him inspired me, I think, when I was about 5 or 6, and that was it.
Nice.
Now, the weird thing about me is I never gave up. Like, I know a lot of people will stop, they go to university, blah, blah, blah. I started work, I guess, at 19 with the police, and I just kept going. Even in those years of your late teens, early 20s, and you're dating and stuff, I just like throw everything under the bed and and then pull it back out.
Yeah.
I didn't want people to know that I was building little tanks and stuff like that. But then what was really neat is you just develop more maturity, more confidence, more passion in the hobby. Mm-hmm. And I think, like a lot of us, it just keeps going.
Yeah.
So yeah, never stopped.
Awesome. Do you remember what your first model you built was?
Total. It was a really hideous Revell aircraft carrier. I want to say it was the Forrestal.
I remember that one.
I think it was the Forrestal.
I remember that one.
Yeah, and then just trying to get the deck on straight, because it was like a bit of a banana. And my dad was showing me all those really, really high-end techniques, like rubber bands around it and on and on. But yeah, I wish I had it. But then I think the oldest model I have, when I was 13, when I think the very first Tamiya Tiger came out, like one of the first Tigers. And I thought I was honestly, I thought I was like the cock of the walk, building that, because I'd painted it and weathered it. But that's one that has survived every move, every relationship. So
that's great.
Yeah.
What would be do you have one model that you built that you're the most proud of?
Ooh.
I know sometimes that's a little hard because we both built so many kits, and I know a lot of mine have gone by the wayside over the years. And
I think because I don't do it much anymore, but I used to build a lot of commission work for people on the provision that I could take it to a show and then, whatever. So I had one client for the longest time, and every year he'd want a diorama every year. So he'd kind of tell me what he would like, and I'd build it. And I did one. My background is Ukrainian, and I did one years ago, and it was taken from a story, actually, from my family in Western Ukraine when there was heavy fighting, and a specific tank unit was storing ammunition and fuel in my family's, one of my family's little huts in like the village houses. And so I remember hearing the story from one of my cousins, who was like my grandmother's cousin, who was like 91, when I was in Ukraine, and she pointed to where they stored ammunition and fuel in March of 44. So anyway, long story short, I told this gentleman who I build for about that, and he said, well, I want you to build that. So I did, and I think I took it to World Expo in, I want to say 2000 maybe, and yeah, I was blessed. I think I got a gold, and yeah.
That's a great story.
But it's long gone.
Yeah.
So that's okay.
Yeah, that's great.
But I still like my Tiger when I was 13. I still have that.
Well, you have those memories, right?
I still have that Tiger.
Yeah. I still have my first kit.
What was that?
It was a Matchbox 72nd scale Alpha Jet.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And it was my mother took me to Simpsons. My dad worked at Simpsons.
Magic.
Back then, and he was working. It was a Saturday, and she's like, do you want to try one of these? And I'm like, okay. Didn't know anything about it. And I picked the Alpha Jet because my dad's name was Alf. So I picked that and went home and got glue all over it and made it.
Love it.
And a little later on, I painted it red, like not a red, but like almost a metallic ruby red. But yeah, I kept that just for nostalgia's sake.
Yeah.
And eventually I want to build it again with what I can do now.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. I can have this. This is my journey.
Oh, absolutely. And that's exactly what it is. It's a journey, you know, it's like where we start.
Yeah.
And again, going back to some of the earlier questions, it's like, that's where we started. And now the funny thing is, I quite often look at a model and I just want to build it like I did then. I just want to glue it and basically paint it. But again, I think it's harder for us as time goes on, because it's like, I don't think I could, But no, I think there's something, I'm not one for buzzwords, but I think that there's something pretty organic about that. And I think it's where we start. Yeah. And that's why to see these little boys on Saturday, they didn't paint them, they did nothing. They just took the Spitfire or the Thunderbolt, cut the parts off, glued them together, and they were smiling.
Awesome.
Just like the Alpha Jet.
Yeah.
Best memories ever.
Yeah, no, that story of that last Saturday, that's fantastic. And I hope that'll happen more often. Especially because now people have heard about it. And those 6 boys might have other friends that, hey, we went to this
tell
and that.
Tell a friend.
Look what I built.
You know, Steve, it's interesting because I'm not putting Jeff Bezos out of business. But the one thing I like here is the fact that, even if somebody just comes in and looks at the model, spins around, goes out the door, as long as we inspire somebody and we keep the hobby positive for people, I think that's my goal here. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you can buy something. I don't find that's the main reason we're here, is to keep people inspired in the hobby. Yeah. And I think that's important, and I'm fortunate that I can say that, because, business is business, but, I just think there has to be also a place. It's like a guitar store, it's like, if everything was behind glass. Yeah. But remember, I think it was Wayne's World, where they, they're in the guitar store. There's a sign, no stairway. Yeah. Yeah. I think if there's parameters, like, I want people to come back here, try some cutters,
That's a great analogy, Tom. Like, I've been a musician through my life a little bit too, and that's a perfect correlation. Like a music store, like when I used to go into a music store, you could pull something off the wall, plug it in, try it out, right? And that's kind of what this store is now for modeling.
Yeah, we try.
Well, I mean, you do have all these beautiful displays and all these built-in models, and then the knowledge of the staff, and they've always been helpful to me to, hey, can we look at this? Or, have you looked at this? This is related to what you're looking at. Like, it's the same. It's a great analogy.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm most proud of, because if I'm not here, Greg or Simon or Sheldon, whoever, Otto, they if somebody walks through this door now and just says, I've always wanted to try an airbrush, I know that one of those guys will bring them back here and hook up an airbrush and let them spray on a piece of cardboard. So, that's the vibe I always want to keep here, because I think that's what keeps us inspired, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think that's it, Tommy, unless you have something.
No, I totally appreciate that. It's, I guess the one thing that I see in the hobby that is this, I remember, years back when you'd look at some of the modeling magazines, like Military Modeling and things like that, and you'd have Ask Sarge, and you'd write your letter, dear, how do I glue 2 parts together? The hobby now is just exploded Now I'm bad because I don't watch, like I don't listen to a lot of podcasts and things like that. That's just me. But I find that it's, in some ways, it's absolutely, I guess what I'm saying is the hobby is there with every other aspect of life, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, like I have to put a new drive band onto my lawnmower, my riding thing, John Deere. So it fell off anyway. So long story short, like, you know, I'm older, but YouTube, it took me 8 seconds to figure out like how to do it.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying to end it, Steve, is I appreciate what you're doing and so many more now in the hobby, because the hobby is morphed into, it's one more area that the hobby's morphed into. So if somebody wants to see what an airbrush does or how to use cutters, that's another, I think, real positive thing for the hobby.
Yeah.
Where the next show is. I think all of it combined is a really good indication of where the hobby's going to go. So, yeah, I'm positive.
Awesome.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great.
We've turned it into a hobby shop that I think we can be proud of here.